Howdy folks, welcome to Charles Grizzly Summer Camp, the best place to spend your summer vacation. Deep in the heart of the Wildwater Canyon National Park, you'll be able to partake in various camp activities like soaking wet river rafting, hiking up the canyon on our Grizzly adventure trail, and having a ride in our all-terrain Jeep for an off-road trek on our wild new multi-launch coaster, Belleflore, where you will have a beautiful day. Yeehaw! Hello everyone, I am Yan, your favorite friendly Frenchman, and welcome to the biggest episode of Belleflore yet, as we're doubling the size of Wildwater, our American area, by adding Wildwater Canyon and its summer camp, so buckle up my friends. We've got a couple new food and beverages unit, a games alley using the arcade features, as well as 4 new attractions, a completely custom Gerstlauer Sky Fly, a realistic Intamin River Rapids ride, our very own adventure trail, and of course our brand new Vekoma multi-launch LIM family coaster. What a mouthful. So, if you're excited about the crazy amount of new stuff we've got to check out, leave a like on the video, and since things are only going to get crazier and crazier from here, how about you consider subscribing in order not to miss future episodes. Alright, welcome back to Wildwater Town, an area that in the park story had been rethemed from a western town to a 1960s town set on Route 66 for the addition of Bucking Bronco, the park's 2015 GCI wooden coaster. Despite that retheme, the park kept the western theme for the second half of its American section, which opened in the year 2000 with a Vekoma mine train and an Intamin River Rapids, which, while ambitious for what the park was at the time, is an investment the park almost didn't recover from as it went way over budget. But approaching the 2020s with 3 new successful and immersive areas that had opened since 2000, including one we'll see in the next episode, Belleflore decided to better include that western area of Wildwater Canyon into the story of Wildwater Town by changing the old mining town into Charles Grizzly's summer camp. You'll leave the town thanks to this bridge going over an artificial expansion of the lake, which links up to our new Rapids ride. In fact, this is where the staging is for that ride, even though no rafts seem to be in storage today. This little fishing hut is our maintenance bay for the rafts, which features a crane to help employees get the rafts in there, which can then be escorted out the back if needed, since the building is connected to the backstage road circling the perimeter of our wooden coaster. In emergency situations, this hut can also serve as an emergency exit for the rafts that have made it down to the lowest point of the ride thanks to this movable catwalk, which you'll see again later when we get to the station. Another cool thing about the view from the bridge is that it gives you a nice look at the Outer Banked Hill straight out of the second launch, as well as the top of the lift hill of the wooden coaster, which, as you'll see throughout the video, gets some nice sight lines throughout the new area. You then walk onto the plaza in front of Eagle's Nest and the entrance to our land. I wanted it to be a space that allowed guest flow to continue towards the next area while also attracting guests towards our summer camp area or our new flat ride. Eagle's Nest is a Gerstlauer Sky Fly that was added to the park in 2016, where the park's old Ferris wheel used to stand. It was originally included in that western area I was talking about, hence the theme that doesn't really have anything to do with the summer camp. And speaking of theming, this flat ride is entirely customized to an old fire watchtower where an eagle has made its nest and is teaching its eaglets to fly, and you are one of the eaglets, as you can see from the custom wings. The watchtower remnants is here to hide the body of the ride, the eagle is here to camouflage the counterweight at the top, and on the axis we find a massive egg sitting in the nest. That one will likely become an eagle straight from the Hobbit once it hatches. But my favorite feature is the water feature I put where the dead space of the ride was, and since I know you guys don't really care about flat rides when you're touring parks in game, I decided to make it all about spectacle with a small water show that is synced with the ride sequence. And the cherry on top of all of that is that I counted how many rolls every single seat does during the sequence to add them to a screen that you can see in the queue line and at the exit, with the best of the month being the 35 rolls my pal Broccoli did in the Toverland vlog. Go check it out, I've got proof. Anyway, a little further down that path we've got another bridge with the coaster going over it not once but twice, and this one will lead to La Serpiente in our next episode, a Mexican village set near an old Mayan pyramid which had a rough time because of a mysterious earthquake. Subscribe to see that. But right next to that little bridge we've got a lemonade stand to provide some fresh drinks to people in this transitional area, and fun fact, this was where the old queue line for the mine train used to start, and you might be wondering wondering, well, where was the station then? The building that was here before our entrance to the summer camp was the station, and of course it was far bigger before. The only things that remain are the pathing and the stairs leading up to the building, as well as the concrete for the station, which was indeed underground and is now used by the second launch of our family multi-launch coaster. The building is now way smaller though, as it doesn't need to house the queue line in the station anymore. It's now simply a disguise for our emergency exits for that launch, as well as our portal into Charles Grizzly's summer camp, which by the way was named after one of my oldest friends once again. Boom, welcome to the hub of the area, where sightlines reveal all of our points of interest that we'll visit today. Let's start on our left with the Games Alley, an old Midway Games Alley that stayed around from the Western days that's now been turned into something more akin to an arcade. The idea here is that guests will play various games, and if they beat the high score of the day, they'll be given the machine's corresponding badge at the counter, and if you get them all, you win a tiny yen. This is of course using the arcade feature from Update 9, which I'd never used, so I thought they had their place in one of the oldest areas of the park since they're extremely retro, so much so that they feel out of place in a modern park in my opinion. Moving on to the right side of the hub, we've got our food and beverages unit for the area, which is a barbecue that only does takeout called Pat's Barbecue, a nice little reference to my dad this time around. Here you'll be able to get classic theme park food like hot dogs and burgers, but barbecued of course, which you can actually see being cooked live behind the counter, where you'll find other kitchen items I've used throughout the park too. This building is completely new with the 2023 rework of the area, as the mine train's first lift hill used to go through that exact spot. Oh, and don't forget the backstage access for our staff, especially because that's a fun one that goes under our coaster. But now we get to the central roundabout of the hub, a place that is meant to encourage people to pick a direction to go next, and it's guarded by a custom Grizzly sculpture carved out of wood. For that I used the bark pieces from the sorcery pack, which unfortunately gives it that mossy look, but that's the best I could do. Let's pick a direction then and go from left to right when it comes to our remaining attractions, starting on the left with Wildwater Canyon Rafting, our Intamin River Rapids that opened in the year 2000. While the layout remains the same in my headcanon, the park has likely added a lot of set pieces around the ride in 2023 to make its spacing feel more alive, on top of how it's been interwoven with the new adventure trail and the new coaster. At the entrance you will find a dryer courtesy of 10 pilots, an interactive button to trigger a water effect for both guests and players to use, as well as lockers that you can access thanks to your park ticket if you don't want your things to get drenched. As we approach the entrance of the queue line, we're greeted by the lift for the ride, the coaster flying by above us, and the final drop of our river rapids, which we've just crossed thanks to this bridge where the interactive button was located. The queue is genuinely nothing special at all, except when it comes to the view on the whole park, a view shared with the exit of the ride, which is also where our handicapped access is located. In fact, the in-game station is using that excuse to justify itself. It's a special station for accessibility purposes, but the real station, which ironically is actually fake, is also here and gloriously rotating at the same speed as the rafts passing by. We've also got conveyor belts to keep them in the correct position, which I couldn't find a way to add movement to sadly, and we've got a moving catwalk once again for backstage access to the point on the other side of the trough, which may look incomplete for now, but that is because I'll be making a water treatment facility in our big backstage episode someday. As for the rafts themselves, they're all numbered and have different names, which all are an animal that you may find in such national parks in the US, and the rest is inspired by Cali River Rapids at Animal Kingdom. But my friends, it's time for us to get wet on Wildwater Canyon Rafting, our Intamin River Rapids, and please remain seated, this is gonna be a bumpy ride. So, how wet are you right now? For a ride located in northern France where it's relatively cold most of the year, this is quite the soaker. Let's break down my thought process behind making this. The first thing I've done was the lowest section of the ride, then the lift hill, and finally the station. That's because I needed to know where the ride ends and where it starts, since the water rides in this game are quite complicated to work with otherwise. From then on, the rest of the layout is going down 3 to 5 degrees per track piece, since rapids are never straight. That's what allows you to go down an artificial river. After that, I simply try to work with show scenes like I would for a dark ride, except these ones are seen in the brightness of daylight, of course. First, we interact with the top of the adventure trail, then we get to the forest, leading us to chopped off trunks, including one that falls on us. That could only lead to the sawmill where those logs are cut, and we nearly are too. That drop gets us to the second half of the ride that I call the canyon section, since we're deep in it now. An old crane gives us a chance to get wet thanks to a rotating barrel, and further down the river we meet the geysers, which are on a random sequence independent of the ride that will always keep you guessing. Past that, we run parallel to the coaster with a proper canyon featuring an artificial waterfall, after which we see the coaster's plaza where guests could choose to soak us with water guns. Then we've got my favorite section, the one with the adventure trail and the coaster going over us, leading us down into the fossil cavern into our final drop, with the ride having one last trick up its sleeve before the technical areas, the exploding barrel. What an eventful rapids ride. I wanted to make the most out of the model since I'm not sure when I'll use it next, and despite that, I don't think it's too long or too short. It's the perfect duration and it always keeps you on your toes, which is what every good raft ride should do. Anyway, let's go back to the summer camp sub and get to our next attraction, which is conveniently placed right here on that hub, the Grizzly Adventure Trail. If you're familiar with Phantasialand's Deep in Africa Adventure Trail, you know what to expect. This is an obstacle course of sorts that is entirely walkable in first person thanks to invisible pathing. We enter the queue line inside the Grizzly Lodge, which is reserved for camp counselors, as this trail was made to test their abilities. Speaking of whom, you can see the list of our camp counselors inside the queue, who are all the generous people who donated on stream. I do building streams of Belleflore on Wednesday and Saturday evenings, so come say hi next time. We also have bunk beds, lockers, and various items for activities around the camp, and we finally get to the turnstile that will let us in. Funnily enough, that's also where the emergency exit before the rapids final drop is located. We start with a rope course inside the fossil cavern over the rapids and with a view on the coaster going through the fossil. Then we get to the bottom of the watchtower where you'll have to cross on trembling platforms. After that, it's time to walk the planks leading to a view on the coaster's plaza until we get to the spinning thumbtacks that are here to make us dizzy, and an obstacle that asks us to climb a section of rockwork thanks to a rope. Once we're up, we cross over the coaster and the rapids on a bridge with rolling logs, so try not to fall, and we arrive to Lumberjack Crossing to gather our senses before the Tipsy Stairway, some wacky stairs that'll lead us to the highest point of the trail. Now at Other Outpost, we run parallel to the rapids where you can splash the rafts with some water guns if one is passing by, otherwise you can cross on those stepping stones while trying to avoid the intermittent water jets from the pipe blocking your way. To reach our final stop, we're taking a swinging rope bridge to get to the top of the fire watchtower that we were under earlier. This is your reward for completing the train, a beautiful view on the entirety of the park. Or maybe the reward is actually going down the slide. For that, press Ctrl 1 time to crouch, Shift 1 time to activate running speed, and then go down the slide all the way down to the end of our adventure trail. You know how I love to make things only accessible by you, the player visiting my park. I'd already done so last year with the mini-golf, which is completely functional in first person too, and I think such features really enhances the player's immersion. But what do you think about those? Let me know in the comments. Conveniently, the exit of the adventure trail leads us to our coaster's plaza we saw a couple times earlier, and I think it's time to have a good look at that. Here you will also find toilets. Oh, no, sorry, the restrooms. We're in America in this area. But look at this master view of off-road trek when you walk up to it. You have the ride sign in the foreground with the front of a little jeep, then you can see the coaster going over the entrance being the subject, and of course in the background the station, the water tower, and the trees. A great way to get guests excited to ride this. Just outside the entrance lodge, we've also got nature photography, a little stall where your ride photos are sold, and so are those Jeep toys inspired by the ride, which I've retroactively added to the park's main gift shop, meaning our Wildwater shelf is now complete and we only have 2 shelves left to fill. Next door we have the exit that has a similar setup to the rapids, including the accessible entrance with an elevator that is right next to the station and the first launch. Let's go under the first element of the ride to join our queue by going inside the lodge of Charles Grizzly himself, the director of the camp, who's here explaining the itinerary of the off-road trek he's planned. We start from the canyon heights, then go near Wildwater town, into the old mine, then into the fossil cavern, and finally following the river until we're back at the canyon heights. We make our way up the hill through 2 cattle pens, as this is a very popular ride that needs to hold a lot of people despite being a capacity monster, with the bigger cattle pen having a view on the maintenance bay in the distance with an emergency exit that leads to it. As you can see, our coaster can run 3 trains and the building is not yet hooked to the backstage road network, much like the rest of the backstages on this side of the area, because I need to know what the next area will look like first. Oh, and I almost forgot, I added the retention pond connected to the lake to avoid flooding the park in case of heavy rain. But let's go back to our coaster, because we were arriving at the station, Mr. Grizzly's workshop with numbered rows, a custom operator booth, no back storage as you can keep it under your legs on this ride, and another Charles Grizzly animatronic ready to send you on your way inside that custom Jeep train made with the help of .NET's Big Bear Mountain recreation for the front car. And my friends, it's time for you to ride the longest coaster I've ever made. I present to you Off-Road Trek, a Vekoma multi-launch family coaster. And voila! This has been the biggest addition to Belleflore since I started the series, and I think the 2 months gap between this episode and the previous one show how much work I put into this. Do you miss the park in between episodes? Then join the chat when I'm streaming on Wednesdays and Saturdays, as you'll get to see every bit of progress I'm making twice a week. You can of course download this version of the park right now by using this share code on your screen, and if you've already downloaded it, you'll simply have to update it from your workshop downloads page. I can't wait for you to check it out in first person. If you've enjoyed this massive new area, do let me know by leaving a like and a kind comment on the video, as those go a long way to support the channel, and remember to subscribe because things will only get crazier and crazier with the upcoming additions to Belleflore, and because we've just crossed 9,000 subs. Thank you all so much for your support over the past 4 years, and let's make our way to 10k together. If you appreciate what I do, you can also consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel supporter to get sneak peeks at what I'm working on, and you can even become a VIP supporter to get early access to POVs and chat with me daily about my progress in the VIP Discord chat. You can see all of the legends who joined already here within Belleflore, and if you'd like to join these fine folks, the link to do so is in the description, where you'll also find the link to join my Discord server. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Yan, your favorite friendly Frenchman, and as always, you've been awesome, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Belleflore. Bye.